are going to be discussing, or rather I'm going to be discussing right now, the revisions that I want you to make on your paper. Some of these actually are changes, some of these are just marking something. For some of you, you might not have a mistake to mark. Let's just get into it and we'll see. This is a cause and effect essay. Remember, you're supposed to be discussing a change that you've observed in your community, school, or family, and the effects that that change has had in 3 different categories. The minimum number of sentences is 25. If you do not have 25 sentences, you need to add more. Put the number of sentences somewhere with a 1. So if you count that you have 27 sentences, then put 27 and put a little number 1 next to that, somewhere where I can find it, maybe at the end. And then number 2, you should have an intro about the change that ends with about the change that you're talking about. Then your intro should end with a thesis statement. If you see the previous video, you'll see what I mean by ending with a thesis statement. 3 paragraphs about the effects of that change, and a conclusion with your thoughts. If your paper doesn't have these parts, add what's missing and put a 2 beside one of the paragraph breaks. Okay, so if you're writing along and you get to the 3rd paragraph and you missed something, then you need to add it. But put a 2 beside the beginning of the 3rd paragraph, the beginning of the 4th paragraph, whatever. And just make it so I can find it. I think with 2 with a circle around it, I can find. So if you're missing a conclusion, then you need to add that. If you are missing a thesis statement, you need to add that, etc. Remember what a paragraph is. A paragraph is a group of sentences that have basically the same topic. Each one of your body paragraphs should be about a category of changes, a category of effects that a change has had. Okay, so recently they fixed the road by our house, and it's had several effects. One of the categories of effects has to do with how easy it is to drive on it. And so I could talk for a few sentences about how easy it is to drive on it, that kind of thing. Maybe give an example, etc. So that is a paragraph. Each paragraph should probably be more than 1 sentence if you're going to have 25 sentences. Can't have 25 paragraphs, right? That'd be weird. Okay. And number 3, eliminate any form of the word you by rewording sentences. Here's an example. First, you have to connect to the class with Google Meet. The easiest thing to do is to change the word you to the word we, or change the word, or if it's in a different place in the sentence, change it to the word us. Another way to change that sentence could be connecting to the class with Google Meet is the first step. And so I'm eliminating the pronoun entirely. So those are 2 different ways to reword. Also eliminate numerals less than 13. And by that, I mean, here's a numeral. If you are writing a number, like say the number 10, you should write TEN and not 10. That's what I mean by eliminating numerals. And any sentences that tell the reader what to do. Many times I've seen in student papers that the student is saying, always try to be positive, or something like that. And so he's telling the reader what to do. So don't do that. Change a sentence with a linking verb to one with an action verb. Those are some ideas of things you could do for this category. This category being voice. Okay, so we want to get to a more formal voice for our writing. And those are some ways to do that. Put a 3 next to where you make a change that's like these. Number 4, if you used a Spanish word, put the English word. If you used the wrong English word or phrase, correct that. So here's an example. This is not the wrong English word. It's just the phrasing is not the way we do it in English. So that would count as a number 4 change. This class is of Mrs. Brown. I've heard many people say that. That's not the way we talk in English. It should be, this is Mrs. Brown's class. We use the apostrophe S to show ownership. Okay? Alternatively, because of the action verb thing, you could say, Mrs. Brown teaches this class. There we have an action verb teaches rather than the linking verb is. Anyway, when you're correcting things to do with English and Spanish, then you should put a 4 by that. Number 5, correct run-on sentences, fragments, and too long sentences. So if you have a sentence that goes on, let's say for more than 4 lines, it's probably too long. So you need to divide it into at least 2 sentences. A lot of times people will be telling stories, giving an example of something that happened, and they would write the word and many times. This conjunction makes it grammatically correct, but we should actually break up the sentences to make them not all super long. You know what run-on sentences are? The most common way of making fragments is if you forget that in English we have to have a subject for the verbs. There is no declarative sentence in English that would begin with the word is, for example, or the word was. We need to have the subject. What is? What was? Okay? Number 6, correct spelling, grammar, punctuation, or capitalization errors, and put a 6 by a correction like that. So again, it might be possible that you don't find anything for 3 or 4, for example. So you could write, make the revisions for 1 for 1, 1 for 2, 3, 5, and then you might have to do 2 6s. But you can't do all 6s. I want you to learn how to do the rest of this stuff. Okay, now this is our last writing assignment. We've done this all year. This is the 8th time we've done revisions like this. So you should know how to do it by now. But if you still have questions, please let me know. Okay? Happy working.